Back over to our list here. Blank your investments among many stocks until you become an expert, blank blank, are an excellent way to do this. This is diversify your investments among many stocks until you become an expert. 5 is the word allocate. 4 is the word, or 6 is the word diversify. What's the difference between those two? Allocate and diversify. Why 2 words? Allocate is to separate into 3 kinds of investments. Mutual funds or stocks, bonds, and cash. That's allocation. But inside those groups of stocks, you need to diversify. You should never buy one stock. You should probably invest in 7 or 8 different stocks, because if one wipes out, you have the other ones to kind of keep you careful. Mutual funds are an excellent way to do this. You can invest in individual stocks, but much better for you to be doing mutual funds. Next point here, number 7. I want you to track an imaginary portfolio. If you don't have money, if you only got $100 to get started with, and $25 a month, I'm going to ask you to turn on your awareness a little bit more by doing what I call an investment challenge. And I'm going to ask you to select 3 kinds of investments. A money market account, some stocks, some specific stocks, and some mutual funds. And to pretend like you got $100,000. Just make it up out of the air. If I had $100,000, where would I put it? Because one of these days you will, won't you? Yes. If you don't now, you're going to. So I'm going to ask you to pretend like you're rich already. And I'm going to ask you to allocate your money over these 3 kind of classes. Write down the names of the companies you're picking. How much of your money are you going to put in IBM? How much of your money are you going to put in, some Wells Fargo or whatever it happens to be? What's the symbol of that stock? And then I want you to track that stock over a period of time. Same thing with mutual funds. Open up your USA Today and take a dart and throw at it. Pick something right out of the hat. Start tracking it. And watch what happens to its value over a period of time, so you get the experience, so it gets into your blood, so you really get to sense what it's like. Because even some of you, well, the reason I'm asking you to do this is because some of you guys are going to live to 100. Some of you are going to live to 110. In fact, many of you are using your sauna. Sky's the limit. You know what I'm saying? You never can't tell. You're going to live way past your retirement age. Some of you are going to think you're going to retire at 65. You have 35 years left. What are you going to do with your life? You're probably going to have several businesses going on when you're 80. And you're going to be investing in your stock portfolios. Some of you are in your 30s and 40s. You've got years to get this into your system of how to make this money grow. And you've got years to train the people who are going to come along after you on how you want your money to be distributed when you're gone. Because you're going to go. So it's time for you to figure out the rules you want your money to be managed by when you're not here any longer. So this is an excellent way to do it. You just pretend like you got the money and you start investing it. And your awareness is going to peak up and you're going to get a whole lot better investing decisions based upon what you do here. Keep on going. With experience, this is what Warren Buffett says. With experience, you can afford to... See, up here I said diversify your investments. If you're investing in specific stocks or mutual funds. But Warren Buffett says, with experience, you can afford to concentrate. And what he says down here is, put all your eggs in a few baskets and then watch those baskets. Carnegie said that too. Don't try to figure out what the market is doing. Figure out businesses you understand and concentrate on them. Diversification is protection against ignorance. But if you don't feel ignorant, the need for it goes down drastically. Warren Buffett is not ignorant. And therefore he does a lot of concentration. Number 9, blank your companies regularly, track them regularly, watch them, look over them. As Peter Lynch said, who was the manager of Fidelity Magellan for many years, one of the best long-term plays in the world. He says, if you don't study any companies, you have the same chance of success buying stocks as if you do in a poker game if you bet without looking at your cards. That'd be pretty stupid, wouldn't it? To bet money without looking at your cards. And therefore, you need to check your companies regularly to see if they still have market dominances. And number 10, the blank you invest, the lower your risk. The longer you invest, the lower your risk. What I'm trying to teach all of you guys to do is to invest even in an imaginary way. Because the longer you invest, even play money, the lower will be your risk when the time gets to the point where you've got lots of money to really play with. Okay? And your goal, everybody's goal in the room, is to take their surplus investment money and to make it grow at least 10% rate of return every year. And hopefully more than that. Okay? Skill number 5 is how do you make money? Now, I've already got some of my money going out of my life and into my mutual funds and my bonds and stocks and things of that nature. Even if it's only $25 a month, you can do that. But that's not enough. The future requires everybody in this room and everybody you ever meet from now on to become an entrepreneur. A home-based business person. Whether it's a network marketing company, which is one way to do it, or to own your own business of some sort, do some real estate investments. All of you in this room have to own your own business somehow. You've got to own it. It used to be in the past that we could become part of the company and buy that company and put our whole lives into it, but that's changed. It just drastically has changed. And it's been caused by global competition. These computers that are now sitting on our desks, you remember when those were not prevalent? How many of you took computer classes in college and you had a big mainframe that you spit cards into? You remember what that was like? Okay, that world is gone forever. The power of that mainframe is now sitting on your laptop computer. The big room of the first computer would fill up a room this size is now found on one Pentium chip. And it's a massive difference for our future. Each of you has to be a business person. What business are you going to go into? Since you've got to do it. Well, we're going to talk about skill number 5 here in just a moment. And that's the skill of creating wealth flowing to you from your own operation of a business. Whether it's a service that you provide for somebody, or whether it's a widget that you're selling, or whether it's information that you're trying to market. And we're moving into the information age, and each of you is sitting on right now in your life. Each of you is sitting on $1 million worth of stuff that's in your brain right now. And tomorrow I'm going to show you how to get it out of the brain and how you can make a business out of it and to have that be your lifelong stream of income. But we need to focus right now on which of those 3 you want to do. Do you want to be a provider of information, a provider of service, or a provider of widgets? A widget would be a product of some sort. Some of you are already in various different businesses now. How many of you are in the information business right now? See, raise your hands on that. Okay, good. How many of you are in the widget business? Let me see, raise your hands on that. Selling stuff, things, widgets. Okay, and how many of you are in the service business, providing service of some sort? You know what the difference is? The service would be, give me an example of a service business.
Accountant.
An accountant, okay? He's not really selling you, something you take home. He's just selling you the way he processes the information. Okay? What's another service business? Pardon me? A family? Travel agent. Okay, that would be a service business. Right. There's no widget you get. When you go to the travel agent, they give you a little tiny piece of paper. But that's what you get. And then finally you've got your information business, which is selling information to various groups of people. Let's look at the 3 kinds of preneurs you can be. And I'm going to have you choose which kind you're going to be. And how you're going to tell is by what your heart tells you. Because that's the only way for you to create wealth anyway, is stuff you like to do. Secret number 5 is to do what you love and the money will follow. It's very difficult for you to make money at something you don't like. Because when you wake up in the morning to go to that quote-unquote job, even if you own that job, if you're a business person and you own it, it's difficult for you to get up the energy that it takes to go to that particular place and do your thing if you don't really love it. Did I have to have too much? Did I have to work myself up to come here and talk to you today? Can you sense that I kind of like this stuff? I like this stuff, and I like you, and therefore it's not hard for me. It's not work for me. Oh boy, I get to go do what I do. See, that's what's fun. That's my candy. You are my candy. You're it. What a lucky guy I am. So when you go to do your thing, is it candy to you, or is it vegetables? Should be vegetables, I know. Okay. So it all goes with what your heart is. Now, the three kinds of preneurs. One's an intrapreneur, one's an entrepreneur, and one would be an infopreneur. Differences between those three. An intrapreneur is a person who works in a company but figures out a way for part of that company's profits to flow to them. Now, many of you would work at a stock issuing company, and you'd get what we would call options, right? Be able to buy percentage of the shares of that company just by working there or getting an option on it. That's a real part of what we call it being an entrepreneur. You're in the company, but you're becoming an owner of it somehow. And as the future unfolds, we don't have models for this really too much these days. But the models in the future are going to be, you go to work for a company and you say to the boss, hey, if I come up with an idea that cuts your expenses and increases your bottom line, will you give me a little piece of that? You know, they're going to come up with models where they'll say, yeah, if you got an idea that it makes us more profit, increases our net worth, we'll let you have a little sliver of that profit for the rest of while you're here at this company. And the models are more and more coming, but they're very few these days because that's just not the way business has really thought. They usually thought of employees as pretty much expendable, coming and going. Eventually, you're going to become good enough at your skills where you're going to be a free agent. And I think that's what you should start thinking of yourself. You know, a free agent goes to whatever company they want to go to. Here's Deion Sanders just signed a free agent deal for how much money? $35 million over the next 5 years. You got how much money up front? $13 million up front. $14 million. It's huge amounts of money up front. Last year he plays for a Super Bowl winning team. He's got his ring now. Now he's a free agent. He's on the market. Anybody can take him, and they're looking for the top players. So he can bid up his price whatever he wants at this point. Are you a free agent in your company? Where you work, are you a free agent? Do they recognize your value that way so that if you left, you'd be out? I mean, they'd be out? If you left, would there be a big hole in your company, or would it be like most people, put your hand in a bucket of water, when you pull it out, it just looks like it's just the company went right along without you? There's some companies that you need to create yourself as an indispensable part of that company, an indispensable wheel in the machine of that company. We're learning a lot about this. We're learning about the mindset. And I'm building a foundation for you guys right here. It's the way you think about money, the way you control it. And this stuff is very rarely taught in context. There's a little snippet here. Like you're reading a money magazine, and you see this ad pops out at you, and it says, 5-star. Yeah, 5-star what? A mutual fund. What kind of mutual fund is it? It's a no-load mutual fund. Okay, that's a little more helpful. How much does it take me to get involved in this? It's $2,500. Well, I can't do that one because I don't want to put that kind of money into it. Don't have it, whatever. So there are a lot of advertisements that are going to be coming up in your life here as you become more aware, and it's going to be more confusing, not less confusing. You need a system to kind of simplify things for you. So Terrence came up to me and he said, you know, I'm pretty new to some of this stuff. You know, I get home and you know, what am I supposed to do? You know, how am I supposed to get started on this stuff? I mean, how do I know how much extra money I have in my life? I've just barely started using this money tracker thing, so I don't know how much extra money I have to put into these investments. And I just said, well, pick $50 or $100, start off with some minimum amount that you think you can handle. You know, look in a money magazine. Just open up money magazine and look through the ads and see which ones turn you on. And then just call them on the phone. They'll give you a toll-free number right in there. What's your minimum investment? I only got $100 to start with. Someone will say yes, someone will say no, and finally you'll figure out one that works for you. Or you call in the yellow pages, you call somebody who's a financial planner and handles mutual funds, and you ask them what you can get involved in. So really, what investing is a leak out of your bathtub. That's your savings right here. That's where you're trying to get this money out of your life so you can stick it over there somewhere to lose it. The faucets, however, are what we call making money. It's being an entrepreneur. I've got to turn a faucet on so that I can have more money to flow into my investments. Now let's just see a bigger picture of the way the money flows. There's our two faucets, and the money's flowing in here, and the money's leaking out here at the bottom. When we have our business account, or another faucet that we're trying to do here, we're trying to really create several different buckets to put our money into. Looks like a cartoon, doesn't it? And so, or what we're trying to do is put in three kinds of buckets. One would be very safe. Very safe. So this would be your, what you call your emergency funds. Every one of you should have, 3 to 6 months worth of cash on hand, just in case there's an emergency. And you want to put it into very safe, very liquid kinds of things. The rate of return would be really low, 3-5%. And as soon as your bucket has filled up with money in that category, that little bucket, this overflow of money out of your life, then when it overflows into your next bucket. And pours into your next bucket, which would be what? Pardon me?
Sort of safe.
Sort of safe. Okay, sort of safe. Something that's a little, that's a good way to say it. I like that. And once that one's filled up, then what are you going to do with this last chunk here? You're going to put, high risk. Yeah, high risk. Riskier things. Okay. Kind of risky. So sort of safe, now they're kind of risky. Okay. kind of risky. Okay. Well, most of us don't do is we, first of all, we don't know how much money we have left over in here. Therefore, we very rarely have these other buckets that we're putting money into. Very few Americans or North Americans have any money put away aside at all. Their net worth is only found in their house because they had to make a payment or they went in foreclosure. That's where the most net worth is found for most people. All of you should have 3 to 6 months of this stuff, and then it overflows into these other things. A lot of times people will put, big chunks of money into a stock like a flyer. They're going into some hot tip that somebody gave you. You only want to put a certain percentage of your stuff in high risk, maybe a smaller percentage. And you want to have more of your percentages up in this area right there. Now, that's the investment categories. What we want to talk about now, and give further detail, is how I turn on the faucets. Turn on the faucets. Because all of wealth is a process of turning on faucets and plugging leaks. That's all there is to it. Turn on faucets and plugging leaks. And most of my whole career was about turning on faucets. But it never was about plugging leaks. And I had so much money flowing here at the top, and then I looked 10 years later and there wasn't any money left. I said, well, I'll just go make some more. And finally I got tired of that. I said, wait a second. Boy, if I'd just taken, of all the money's flowed through my fingers in the last 10 years, if I'd just taken 5% of it and put it somewhere, there'd be a bank account with millions of dollars in it. Couldn't I have got by on less than, on 95%? Couldn't I have got by on 90%? Yeah. Well, my attitude was just, spend it. Let's have fun. Life's to be lived, right? But that's a very selfish attitude because money is to be shared. And so the turning on the faucets, the reason I want you to do this plugging the leaks first stuff is because if you don't have a system for controlling the money that flows into your life, you are out of control. You're going to crash and burn. For instance, if a guy comes up to me and says, I want to be a real estate rich investor, teach me how to do that, Bob. I want a 100-unit apartment building. I said, do you balance your checkbook? No. I want to get rich so I don't have to do that kind of thing. Does the apartment building have a checkbook attached to it? Yeah. Does it have 100 times more money flowing into it that's flowing into your life? Yeah. If you can't balance out your little checkbook, what's going to happen when I give you a big checkbook? You're going to go belly up real quickly because you don't have a system to control it. So whether you have $1,000 a month coming into your life or whether you have $100,000 a month through your life, it's the same thing. It's the same system. It flows the exact same way. It's just the numbers are a little bit smaller. You know, $1,000 comes in from my job. I pay my leaks. I have a little bit that spills over here to go to my savings. Pretty soon a little bit leaks over there to go towards my moderate investments. Pretty soon a little leaks over there to go to my risky investments. Whether it might be $10 a month, you know. Because it's the same thing. Because if your money flows the same when you hit the big time, then you want to have the same kind of percentages keep flowing. And then your prosperity just keeps growing like that. So plugging the leaks is one of the most critical skills. Unfortunately, it's not enough, is it? Because many of you are pretty good at plugging leaks. You're into budgeting and taking the pennies and all that kind of thing. That's not enough by itself. You have to know how to turn on the faucets. And you can be one of three people. You can be an intrapreneur, as we were talking about earlier. You can be an entrepreneur, which is a person who does widgets. Or you can be an infopreneur, a person that markets information. A person, how many of you are involved in USANA again here in the room? Just so you get a, okay, so you guys are intrapreneurs, aren't you? You're an intrapreneur. You are linked with a company called USANA, and that company sells a product, delivers a product, and yet you receive profits from that, don't you? You've got a stream of income that flows to you because you're an independent distributor of that company. You are an entrepreneur inside a company called USANA. You're an intrapreneur. Somebody came up to me just a minute ago and said that 3M has a program where you can spend a certain amount of time every day on your project. And 3M will even, according to him, fund some of the projects as long as they end up with pieces of the profits that come from the deals that are created out of 3M. And a lot of companies are now moving towards that kind of a model because that's where the future is going. The future is everybody's controlling their own money. They're all entrepreneurs. So, key is, I got to find something I love to do. If you don't love to do it, then find something you do love to do. How do you find out what you love to do? We'll take a little sidetrack on a concept I call purpose. For many people who've never heard me talk about this before, it's really kind of a revelation. It was to me. I remember the first time I lost a lot of money. It was 1986. Almost 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years ago in February. It's coming February the 13th. I was working at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when it happened. And I was doing extremely well. People were sending me lots of money. I was on a royalty relationship with a lot of companies that were marketing my products. They were sending me anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a month. And I just get a check every Tuesday. And I didn't even have to show up at the seminars. They just send me the money. This was good. This was good. This was very good. I enjoyed it. Money just flowed in. I didn't take care of it. Doggone, I just wish I could go back 15 years ago. Start that thing all over again. Be a different 15 years for me. Well, in 1986, a few things happened. A couple of competitors came out and started selling nothing down real estate seminars on the TV. Many of them are still on the TV. They're all my graduates, people that worked for me. Basically literally lifted those ideas, and some of them were literally stolen right? I mean, almost word for word. And they started marketing these concepts on TV. Well, I wanted to do them in seminar format. So the market moved one direction. I did decide to move with it. And about $50 million later, they had that business, and I didn't have much business in terms of my seminars any longer. Well, that's okay. I got lots of money. I don't have to worry about that. So little by little pieces of it, I didn't follow the market, and I kind of lost that whole industry. Kind of went off in a different direction. We still had lots of money, though, and put a lot of it into a big, beautiful cabin in Provo, Utah, the Canyon Sundance Ski Resort, right next to Robert Redford's big place up there. Put about $2 million in cash into this beautiful cabin. Been offered $3 million for it by some foreigner coming through. It was the most beautiful piece of real estate you've ever seen in your life. Gorgeous property. $250,000 worth of furnishings inside. I've played all the want stuff before, let me tell you. I'm speaking from experience. That afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my wife called, or actually the ski patrols called from the ski resort, where my wife had gone that afternoon to bake a cake for our anniversary. She took our little boy with her, Aaron. And I stayed behind to finish up the challenge, the book, The Challenge. That afternoon was a wonderful afternoon. I was going into all kinds of details on this book. I loved to write, so I stayed back and was going to bring the other kids up later. Got a call from the ski patrol. You better come to the cabin. There's been a problem. And I rushed up the canyon. It snowed that day, about 40 inches. And so there was a lot of snow on the ground, lots of danger in the air. Ski patrol was there to take me up the canyon to where the cabin had been. And as I pulled up there, find my wife wrapped in blankets in shock, because she had walked out towards where the cabin was and had seen it just really decimated in front of her. As you can see, avalanche that had come through it had really just wiped it out. And she'd walked out into the snow, and it's snow after an avalanche. It's like soft, powdery stuff. You sink right up to your necks like quicksand. And she'd swum around in it and finally got herself out. Bottom line, it was a very, very wake-up call to life, frankly. We watched in an instant a $3 million asset be destroyed. We ran down the cabin, or I ran down from the cabin to the home to check on our insurance, and found out we were not insured in the case of an act of God. It's a strange way to put it, isn't it? And eventually there were some insurance funds that did come through after a long legal battle. But at that moment, we literally had watched a huge chunk of our net worth go up in smoke, and was attached to certain bank loans that we had done to buy some properties that my intuition told me not to buy. And within 6 months, and a $10 million net worth was $3 million underwater. I was a millionaire in the wrong direction. And so there are a lot of things we'll be talking about even later on this afternoon about protection, how you protect your assets, come from some real poignant experiences here. Bottom line was my creditors now decided that they wanted their money quicker than I could pay it. And one of those was my bank, with whom I had borrowed about $1,750,000, and he wanted it immediately. And since there's no insurance, he thinks, and I thought too, and since the business wasn't doing as well as it had done in years past, they called their loans, which means that they took all the assets. Everything I had my name involved in, signed by the leases and signed by the collateral agreement, my Simon & Schuster royalties, and all streams of income flowed right straight to my bank, and they literally cut us off with nothing. It was a very awakening experience. It wiped us out, pretty much. I decided I didn't want to declare bankruptcy, and therefore fought that for many, many years, paid off lots of debts, 100,000 here, 10,000 there, 15,000 here. There's not a person in this room who's ever had more creditors trying to take after them than I am in front of you. I understand what it's like. If you've ever been behind in any payment, I understand exactly what that's like, because I've experienced that personally and deeply. I also followed intuition, and intuition was, no, you're not going to declare bankruptcy. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do. I'm saying at that time, my intuition said, no, you're going to pay this back. And so I had to figure out a way to pay it back, piece by piece by piece. I remember coming down here to California and leasing a home on the lake out in Fairbanks Ranch with literally nothing, and having a reputation of lots of wealth, the guru of all this stuff. Well, the guru had gone in the tank. And it was very embarrassing and extremely, extremely difficult to live through. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And the best thing that ever happened to me, in the strangest way. They always are, aren't they? It's no fun to be in them, though. Life is a roller coaster, isn't it? That's what life is like. And so that's where we were at that point. I remember jogging around that lake and asking myself the question, how am I going to pay $3 million back? Where is it going to come from? Creditors are calling. I say, just give me some time. I'll pay it back. I'll sign a note. I'll pay it back within 5 years. Give me some time. See, when you got lots of money, it's nice and luxurious to take back and look at your life and say, well, this is what I'd like to do with my life. When you don't have any money, you have the same responsibility, though. You have to ask yourself the question, what am I born for? What's my life all about? Some of you haven't never had that experience where you don't have anything, or less than nothing. Some of you are nodding your heads like, oh yes, I know what that's like. But some of you here in the room have got a problem, and the problem is you've got too much stuff. Your stuff, you got your stuff, you got your mortgage payments you're trying to carry around, you got your car payments, you got that furniture loan you got over there, all this stuff you're trying to carry around, And you know what? You don't have the luxury of dropping it all and saying, wait a second, what's my life count for? What am I supposed to be doing? What does the universe want me to do? What are my talents? What are my gifts? As I was jogging around that lake out there, I was asking myself the question, okay, if I'm going to make this money back, how am I going to do it? And I found myself saying to myself, if I'm going to make it back, I'm going to make it back my way. Because I'm so far in a hole, I'll never get out. So I'm going to do it my way. If I'm never going to get out, then I'm going to live my life my way, for once in my life. It's a very liberating decision. Because I then began to ask myself, well, what do I like to do? What am I good at? What are my gifts? What are my talents? When was I happy? I went back over my life, my experience in my previous businesses. And I said, well, yeah, I love to do that. I love to do that. No, I'm not very good at that. And I began to go back and say, listen, if I'm going to make it my way, I want to do the talents that I've been given. What are my talents? What are my gifts? What are yours? Because that's where your wealth lies. And each one of us has different talents and gifts. And when you give those gifts and talents, that's when the world gets better. And when you don't give those gifts and talents, then the world is impoverished. Because we're all in a symphony, and you play your part and I play mine. You can't play my instrument, and I can't play yours. You can't be somebody else. You can't be an Elvis. We all had an Elvis. If you try to be like Elvis, you're an Elvis impersonator. And you know what that is. That's just a joke. It's a joke. You are you, Terrence. There's only one person who can be that. I can't be you. You're it. That's it. You don't play yourself very well, and none of us in this room get what you got. You've been given certain gifts, talents. When you magnify them, we're all blessed. You don't magnify them, we just don't hear your note. When you lose everything, you get this incredible luxury of asking these kinds of questions. What's my note? When do you want me to play it? What's my gift? When do you want me to give it? From that came a very powerful realization that people who are really good at what they do are on purpose. They're doing what they love to do. They're good at it. It's important to them. And they feel it's part of their destiny. They love what they do. They're good at it. It's important to them. It's part of their destiny. When you select a business for you to go into, you should be asking yourself those kinds of questions. Do I like this business? Does it express who I am? Does it magnify my talents? Is it part of my destiny? Pretty serious questions. And yet, when I was jogging around that lake, I asked myself over and over again, okay, I got to make this money back. How am I going to do it? Let's see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach. That's what I'm going to teach, because I like to teach. I think I'm pretty good at it. I like to write. I think I'm pretty good at it. I didn't know that for a long time, but then I kind of discovered it. And then I started to really practice it. And slowly but surely, we paid back all the things that needed to be paid back. And we came back on top, and happy to say that the sun is shining. But for many, many months in there, many years actually, in fact, many, many years, one after the other, although the outward appearance of Bob would have been, he's got it together, The inward appearance was very tough. That's why I can tell you, and I've earned the right to tell you, that there isn't a person in this room who can't and shouldn't be very successful at what they pursue. And I don't care what your problems are. I don't care how far you think you're down. There's not a problem that you're experiencing that I probably haven't experienced myself. Now, life's a little different, because when you ask a question about what your business is, you say, okay, what do I want to spend my time at? Because I've only got so much time. What talents do I get to magnify? I always follow my intuitions on these things and created certain businesses that really flow for me. One of the businesses that flows for me, obviously, is real estate. So I'm going to kind of show you what my faucets are. And you're going to create faucets for yourself, the way things flow for you. But putting your energy into the businesses that flow cash to you based upon your talents. And there's a good chapter in Nothing Down for the 90s. It's called How to... it's a chapter on goal setting. It's like the third chapter into it, where I go into great detail about this concept I call purpose. And I don't have a lot of time for us to talk about it here. But the 4 questions I want you to ask yourself tomorrow, next day, when you get up in the morning, is what am I good at? What do I love to do? What is important to me? And what is my destiny? What am I good at? What is important to me? What I love to do? What's my destiny? And then, as you make money, make sure that none of your businesses go outside of the boundaries of what you just wrote down. Otherwise, what you basically said is, I want to do things just for the money. Because this is the way most of America operates. If I can just get enough money, well, I can do anything I want to do. Have you heard that formula before? You can buy anything in this world for money, right? If I just go get enough money, then I can do what I want to do. Have you ever heard that formula before? It's in almost every advertisement you'll ever see. I just get enough money and you do whatever you want. And I'm trying to tell you that formula is absolutely backwards. If you figure out purpose, you figure out what you're supposed to do, then you are flowing with the forces of the universe. The money is going to flow to you. If you don't figure out what purpose is, the money is not going to flow to you because you will not want to do it. There's going to be a part of your soul that's going to be dying as a process. And you say, this is not what I was born to do. And you'll have to get up in the morning and go do that to get the money, and you're going to feel like a prostitute because it's not what you want to do. It's not what you were born to do. It's not where your life flows. So, purpose is, well, watch TV. If you want to see somebody on purpose, watch TV and watch the different people being interviewed. You can tell the ones who are on purpose. Like, I love to do what I do. I mean, this is so much fun. Yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. And don't tell anybody, but I would do this for free. You hear that a lot. And you can see the people who are really like, they are on purpose. They're doing what they love to do. For me, it's teaching. I don't know what your purpose is. For me, I have 3 basic funnels that flow into my life. And one of them, obviously, is the real estate funnel. And dollars flow into the real estate funnel for me as I teach people how to create, real estate wealth. And we do our seminars. I have various companies that market our real estate seminars. And I love that. I'm not as passionate about real estate as I used to be. But I certainly love the process of teaching a person and watch their eyes go light up. You mean to tell me that? And you show them all the many ways there are to create wealth through real estate. And so I have my books, and I've got various different products that we sell, and I've got my real estate seminars that we do. That's, for me, is purpose. Each of you is going to come up with, something similar to this. My other funnel, when I believe in multiple streams of income, you might have heard me talk about that before, would be infopreneuring. which is a combination of information and entrepreneurship, or how to teach people how to sell information and get out what is in their head to audiences that want that information and to make profit doing that. And I've done that extremely well in the real estate industry. Now I've brought it out to any industry. You can sell information no matter where you're at. In fact, everybody in this room should be what I call an information multimillionaire eventually. Because as you generate success, you also generate the story. And as you generate the story is sellable. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Okay? And then obviously the third funnel that I am absolutely in love with is USANA. And those of you who are not involved in USANA, it's a network marketing company that markets a product that is just incredible, a health-related system. And it's involved in network marketing, which is an industry I had never done before. But as I got involved in USANA and discovered the ways in which people create wealth through network marketing, I just loved it. My intuition said, yeah, that's where you should be. Now, these are my three funnels where money flows into my life. And each of these different funnels has little side rivulets that are coming off it. There's about 12 to 15 different streams of income from those three. This is where I make my money that flows in. Each of you is going to be having several different faucets. And I'd like you to right now to take a blank piece of paper and write on that blank piece of paper the funnels, or the faucets, where money flows to you from various different sources, all right? And some of you only have one faucet, and some of you have several. I'd like you to add up how many faucets you have. Using this as kind of a model here. And here is your bathtub, and the money funnels in, or faucets in. You can do a faucet if you want. And just take a moment. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this. Notice how the money flows in from various different sources right now. Okay? I'll give you 2 minutes. Go ahead and do that. Okay, so when I was running around the lake and asking myself the question, how am I going to make $3 million back? How can I get myself out of this hole? I said, well, if I could get myself out of the hole, how would I like to see it? Because I'm going to have to make it from scratch, so why not make it my way? Like the way I want to see it. Rather than like doing it the way normal people, well, I'd like to have a little office, not too many people in it. I'd like to be able to work very close to that office. Okay, good. I'd like to be able to be no more than maybe 10 minutes away from that office. I would like people to come to me. I don't want to have to go to them. So if they're going to have a seminar, they'll come here. I'd like to be able to do most of my writing at home. I'd like to be able to not have to get in a suit unless I have to get in a suit. Most of the time, if you come to my house, you'll find me when I get up. I put on my jogging shorts and my t-shirt. I put a baseball hat on, or a football hat on, a cap. I don't shave. And I'll be there the entire day working in my office. Kids are running in and out, talking, the phone's ringing, wife's coming in, boom, boom, things are happening right there. I said, that's the way I want it to be. That's the way I want it. I'm going to do it that way. Whether I'm $3 million in the hole, or whether I'm plus $3 million, or whether I'm up $30 million, that's the way I want to do it. So why should I go start off and do it the way you're supposed to do it? Since I'm so far in the hole anyway, I'll just start my own way right now. And so that's the way we started to create it. I'm never going to work past 6 o'clock at night, ever, because my wife won't let me. And if I ever do any traveling, it'll never be more than a couple days at a time. And I try to keep that down as much as possible. In other words, that's the way I design it. How is your design here? So if you design it that way? How many employees would you have if you could have the ideal number of employees? How much office space would you take up? Where would it be? See what I'm saying? I'm asking you that before you start your business, you ask that question, and then you start it that way. And you not even consider doing it the way they do it out there, but you do it the way it flows for you. Because when you're on purpose, you have to flow your way. It makes it natural. Most people are swimming upstream, and it's very, very hard. But if you find out what your purpose is and the way the ideal lifestyle you like, then it's just like natural. You get up in the morning, it's natural. I go to my office, it's natural. You know, I start doing things I love to do. It's natural, because natural means that's where you are, where your gifts are. It's like trying to teach Chopin how to play soccer, you know? No. This is what I like to do. You know, I don't want to play soccer. Get away from me. I want to do this. So what were you designed to do? So the questions you have there in your manual are creating an ideal business. You need to reduce the resistance between an idea in your head and checking your mailbox. And therefore you want to have your resistance low, because you're doing it the way it flows for you. To get on purpose, you ask yourself these 4 questions, and you have them constantly in your mind. And some of you, this is going to be really hard, because you're going to go around for the words, oh, what's my purpose? I haven't found my purpose yet. She found her purpose. He found his purpose, but I haven't found my purpose, so I'm not happy. What's my purpose? What's your purpose? To find your purpose, that's right. Your purpose is to find your purpose. Exactly. That's right. And we already know there's a couple of pieces of purpose. They're called purpi. One piece would be to learn how to love. Well, you know, you all got to do that one, so you all got to do that. That's what I call primary purpose. Now, secondary purpose is what I call figuring out the specific way that you love. Right? I'm loving you right now. This is what I do. This is my gift to you. I can give you a hug, or I could hug you this way. And so, primary purpose was to have the intention of loving Terence. My secondary purpose, which is the way in which I'm loving Terence, is, Terence, I'm going to give you 20 years of my life. And I'm going to say, Terence, I've studied for 20 years so that we can spend this day together. So that I can teach you a few techniques, ideas here and there. And I'm going to put it in a little different twist. And I'm going to do it in such a way that you'll remember it. And that's what I do. I'm singing my song to you, Terence. Ah! That's my song for you. And that's why I don't sing, I talk my song. Okay? So what's your song? What are you going to sing? Well, it comes back to your purpose. What are your talents? What are you good at? What do you like to do? What's important to you? What do you feel like you should be doing? And then you try to grow your business based upon those principles, those fundamentals. So when you get up and do your business, you're doing it because it's part of your expression, you know. This is the note I get to play in life. And then the second decision should be to find an ideal lifestyle and then choose your business. Figure out how you want to live first. Then make a decision to live that way. And then make the business conform to that, rather than having a business and making your lifestyle conform to that. Because most people who are going to work today on the freeways are conforming themselves to life rather than having life conform to them. Let the business come to you, not you to the business. Become a preeminent expert in your field, because that's going to be required of you if you're an entrepreneur. You'll always have to be learning and studying. Ride a train that's on the wax, not on the wane. Whatever business you choose, whether information, widgets, or services you choose, if those 3 of those things, if they're heading in the tank, if the long-term trend is the baby boomers don't want it, then certainly, for heaven's sakes, get out of that business as quick as possible. Because it's on the wane. You're swimming upstream instead of flowing with the current. Don't be first, don't be last, be a copycat. Watch who's making it. Watch the people who climb the cliffs. Figure out the secret routes to the top of the mountain and follow where they go. You know, it's pretty dangerous to be climbing cliffs yourself until somebody's figured it out. No se habla employees. That means I don't speak employees in Spanish. It's no se habla español, no se habla employees. In other words, try to have it as few employees as possible, because employees are being reclassified from assets into liabilities. Employees reduce flexibility, they reduce profit, they reduce free time, they increase hassle, they increase customer and employer liability, and they increase management headache. And is there any doubt about how I feel about employees? Okay. One more time, will be a little more clear for you here. Employees are death. You got to keep your costs down as much as possible. When you think about it, you ask yourself, what's your profit margin? What profit margin? Say 20%. Okay, 20% profit margin. All right, good. How much is it going to cost for you to add that extra secretary, for instance? Oh, it's going to be $2,000 a month. All right, then how many dollars did you have to bring in the door to be able to afford that one person? You have to bring $10,000 in the door to be able to afford that one person. Is it easy? easy for you to bring bucks in the door? Can you make $10,000 that easily? If you can't, you got to ask yourself the question, do I need this person? Or would I rather just have no person, therefore I don't have to have the $10,000 worth of income. I just have enough income to be able to support myself. And I know this is a pretty dim view. It certainly isn't going to be any General Motors coming out of this building, or this room here today. I think businesses should be small, should be lean and mean for the future, and therefore that's why I'm recommending this. Constantly simplify, reduce the number of moving parts, maintenance, management time, hassle, inventory, equipment, employees, etc. Constantly reduce your costs. Make yourself obsolete, which means if you don't make yourself obsolete, somebody else will. Your competitor is going to wipe you out. So you have to be constantly reinventing yourself. Constantly changing the way you do business to meet what the future is going to look like. Because if you don't, you're going to be reinvented right out of your career. Okay, those are kind of some guidelines that you'll be doing if you're going to be an entrepreneur. All right? I'm just trying to point out here that you've got to be an entrepreneur. Everyone in this room has got to be taking matters into their own hands, period. Now, the piece I want to add now is if I had done the things that I'm going to tell you now before I had done the making of the money, we wouldn't have had so difficult a time in the last 9 years. I'm just going to tell you really flat out that your money's in danger. And you've got to learn how to protect it and shield it. Because if you're all going to create wealth for yourself, if you're all going to be multimillionaires someday, and even that doesn't have to be all that difficult, because if you just take a couple $100 a month and funnel it into the right kinds of vehicles, without doing anything else, every one of you in this room can be a multimillionaire over a long period of time. Some of you it'll take 300 or 400 years. But that's okay. Every one of you is going to learn how to protect your assets, because you're not going to be here this long. And then when the assets have to get transferred on to the next generation, how are they going to get taken care of? My sister had a very unfortunate thing happen to her. She just had her brand new little baby, her 7th baby, and her 7th. And her husband, who was 42 or 43, got a tumor in the brain, and before long he was gone. So she had 7 little babies to take care of, and a husband that's out of the picture. And Homer was his name. Homer was extremely smart. He had set it up, put it into various trusts that were impenetrable, trusts where they couldn't get to the money. If they'd been able to get to the money, frankly, they would have squandered it long before the money actually, lasted. It lasted for over 20 years. Put every one of those kids through college, took care of every one of their marriages, took care of her for a long period of time. He was smart. He set it up. He says, I know that people don't understand money the way I understand money. They didn't know the skills. He didn't teach them. But nobody teaches us the skills of how to make and manage and keep and protect and control the money. So you have to assume that the people you pass it to don't know what you know about how to make it. So we want to put around you a shield, a very powerful shield to protect your assets. In the 60s and the 70s, you could have assets in your name. You could go down to the county courthouse and look up the assets that where your name was attached. The real estate, the car loans, all that stuff. These are the 90s, folks, and you have to live by totally different rules. And the subject of our discussion here in the next few minutes is how to live like a millionaire, but be worth nothing on paper, to be a pauper on paper. Well, let's get to the point of creating the shield around our assets so that nobody ever takes them away from us. And you have to start to think in a very defensive mode, because the future is going to be filled with lawsuits. They'll stem the tide of lawsuits, right? And they'll actually start going down and down and down to where there'll be no lawsuits at all in the country, right? Okay, there are almost 1 million lawyers in America, so what does that tell you? They got to get paid somehow. Now, lawyers have been maligned for a lot. I'm not here to malign my lawyers. I have good lawyers myself. I love my lawyers. They're wonderful. They keep me protected. But this is a dangerous world we live in. Very, very, very dangerous. And you want to make sure that if somebody ever takes it, they don't have a chance to get it. So if you were to try to look at my financial picture today, you'd not find much there. If you try to sue me today, it's going to be a very long lawsuit. Because I'm not going to be represented by an attorney. I'm probably going to do it by myself. And I'll fight you tooth and nail, and you won't be able to get anything because there's nothing there to get. We live in a nice home we don't own. I drive nice cars that I don't own. We live a nice lifestyle, which I don't own. But we still continue to live. Right? One of these days, what is the probability that each of you will be sued for everything you own? What's the probability? Maybe 20%. If you're in business, over the next 20, 30 years, your life's 100%. I'm making my estimation on that. Maybe I'm just a little gray or black about the prospects, but I believe that it's going to be very, very high over a period of time. It's going to be 100%. You get sued by somebody, and they're going to want everything you've got. And the first thing an attorney's going to do is look and see how much you do have. Is it worth suing for? If you've got good insurances, maybe they'll sue you just to get to the insurance. So there are some things you can't hide behind because you need to be insured, obviously. But you have to be careful where you pile your assets up. There should not be anything in your own name. It should be the names of businesses and corporations and DBAs doing business as. It should be the names of family trusts, family limited partnerships, trusts themselves, corporations, etc. On and on and on. It should not be in your own name. Period. This is a real game you're going to have to play. It's actually not very fun to have layers of insulation. Maybe if you've got a $100,000 net worth, and that's about where you're going to keep it, maybe you won't have to jump through those kinds of hoops. But if over a period of time you grow things that I've been showing you here by taking the wasted parts of your life and just productively invest them for the long-term future, there's going to be many of you on this room. If you do what I tell you to do, have $500, $800, $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million, $10 million. For a long period of time, it's totally realistic, isn't it? Totally realistic. And it's not going to require huge amounts of risk on your part. The only risk that you'll have is how do I protect that so nobody gets to it. So, remember I said that each of you should be operating your business off of purpose? Well, this is my purpose statement, and I think every one of you in the room should have one. Purpose statement is the guiding light for your business. It's the rudder for your business. You get up in the morning, you ask yourself the question, what am I supposed to do today? And this is my guiding principle. My purpose is to inspire and to empower people to achieve their destiny. When I get up in the morning, I ask myself the question, how can I inspire and empower more people today to achieve their destiny? Inspire means, how can I place hope in people? And how do you quickly place hope in people's lives? You make it understandable. You teach it in a way that they can really get it. That's one of my skills. That's why Nothing Down was so successful. I took the gobbledygook of business and investing and translated it down to things that people understand. Have you had the world of money translated down to something that's easier to understand for you here today? Yes? So that's one of my skills. To get something that's inspiring because you say, well, I can do that. Yeah, $1 a day? I can do that. The empowering part is giving people the tools, not just the belief or the hope, but to give them a real tool to go out and do it. And when I teach you this seminar, have there been any tools that I've given you? Okay, what specific tool, thing have you got that you can build financial freedom through? It's a little power planner. That's a tool I created specifically, especially for you, as a tool that you can use to help build the success for yourself. The knowledge is also a tool that you're going to be using. The attitudes, as we build towards giving you those tools, there are two reasons why conspicuous consumption is on the way out. Number one, it's economically stupid. Conspicuous consumption will mean flaunting your wealth. It's economically stupid, and two, it's dangerous. Sixth great danger of the modern entrepreneur, being sued by a C, being sued by a competitor, being sued by an employee, being sued by a customer, being sued by a partner, being sued by a FM, family member, or being pursued by a GA, government agency, or a gangster, I guess we could throw that in there, government agency. The probability that one of these things is going to happen to you is about 100%. It wasn't that way in the 80s, it wasn't that way in the 70s. But the 90s is going to get worse and worse and worse, so I've got to protect myself. So the strategies to protect yourself and your assets. You've got to operate your business from a corporate entity. Some of you are going to start small, and you'll say, well, why do I need to do this stuff? Let me show you why. Okay, suppose you... Let's say those of you involved in USANA, for instance, and you really figure it out. You really work hard at it, and you create a stream of income of $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 a month coming into yourself that's residual. You work hard at it. It's been a couple of years. Okay? Now, you started out small. It was first $100 a month, and it was $500 a month, and it was $1,000 a month, and it built up over a period of time. Now, when it's, say, $5,000 to $10,000 a month, you get sued for somebody who's disgruntled with you for whatever reason it happens to be. Are they just going to sue you for a little bit, or are they probably going to sue you for everything you got? Okay, how do I get around that? I've already got this stream of income that's been flowing into my life. I've got a pattern of it. I've created a trail of it. It's in my bank accounts. It shows it right there. Now, I say, well, I got to avoid this lawsuit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer that money out of my name and put it somewhere else. Right? What do we call that in legal terms? What's a conveyance? It's a conveying. You're conveying to some other entity your stream of income. When you convey from one person to another person, what does it create? Well, a paper trail, number one. Number two, it creates a taxable event. If I sell this business to somebody else over there, I've created a taxable event. I start from zero. I build it up to this, and I sell it to them. I'm going to pay taxes on it. So that's one of the reasons I want to do it early, because I don't want to have to wait later and have to pay all the taxes by transferring it. The second, or the third reason, besides paper trail and the fraudulent or the conveyance part, the taxes part, is what we call fraudulent conveyance. That means if you lose the lawsuit, then they're going to go back and ask you, have you transferred any of your assets under oath in the last XYZ months? I'm not sure how many months they'll ask you for. Have you transferred any assets to somebody else in the last 6 months? And you're going to have to answer under oath. Yes, no, yes, I have. I actually gave my sister-in-law my diamond ring so that, they wouldn't take it. Okay, that's a fraudulent conveyance if you lose a lawsuit. They're going to ask you those questions. And if you fraudulently, that means breaking the law, transfer that asset to somebody else trying to get away from the lawsuit, they go get that from them. And they'll sue your sister-in-law to get that ring back. It's going to create a real mess. What you want to create is 5 years before the lawsuit happened. You want to create the entity, the corporation, or the family trust, or whatever vehicle you're going to use. You want to create that entity before anything bad happens. So by the time something does happen, or if it does happen, you have now created this entity that is, a legal protection for you. And there won't be any taxes because you want to sell it, you own it, or you control it. And there won't be any, shall we say, fraudulent conveying of assets. And I'm highly recommending that you set it up before you make it. Because if you're all going to make it, you're going to create a stream of income, and you need to build it from the very beginning. I certainly wish I had done that for myself. So you need to operate your business from a corporate entity. You must avoid putting assets in your name. You must carry adequate liability insurance. Money rules. Money rule. I prepare today for the blank of tomorrow. the catastrophes of tomorrow. I hadn't prepared for that avalanche. I am prepared now. I prepared for the catastrophes of tomorrow. Money rule, I build a blank around my assets. I build a financial fortress around your assets. Now, I'm going to finish up with rule number 7, or secret number 7. I want you to see why you're going to set up your corporation now, because you're not going to be here forever, and you need a vehicle that transfers into future generations without you being there. You need to set it up now. If one of the major reasons for you to have your wealth is to help other people, then make sure that the money flows for generations to other people, not just to your kids when you die. Probably shouldn't be giving lots of money to your kids when you die. They probably won't know what to do with it. I want them to earn it the same way I earned it. I want them to learn how to manage it. I want to put in certain rules. If you manage it well, you get more of it. You don't manage it well, you don't get more of it. And I want to set up certain institutions to receive monies that flow to me. So the reason that we're setting this up is not only just for protection today, but for long-term gift giving. Okay? Because secret number 7, and I've already alluded to this to you earlier today, is that the purpose for money is to help other people. Yourself included, by the way. You want to make sure that you're at the top of that list. You're going to get helped. But I'm going to ask you this question. If you were a billionaire, which people would you help with your money? Because every one of you has a list of people you automatically think of. When you're watching the television, they come on the TV and you go, oh, if I had money, I would help those people. And then other people will come on the TV, equally as deserving, and you go, oh, let them starve. And every one of us has different groups of people. Some of you will say, oh, this is kids. I'm going to help kids. And other people, homeless people. And other people, people with hearing disabilities or certain physical handicaps. Every one of us has purposed ways for our money to go. In other words, when you came here, you came with a mission to help certain specific groups of people. This is my personal belief. So I'm just sharing you what I believe. That those certain groups of people are right now in the year 2010 looking back to you, and they're saying, are you going to do what it's going to take for you to do in order for you to be able to help me in the year 2010? And so I'm going to ask you right now for you to think in your mind as you set up your corporation, as you set up your trust, where is this money going to go? And I would submit that each of you has a different group of people. But it's just like having a purpose. It's like having something that drives your life. If everybody would just do and help the group of person they were sent to help, then there wouldn't be any poverty on this planet. But most of us kind of assume that somebody else is going to do it. Right? Like Catherine Genovese in New York City, who went home that night and the guy attacked her with a knife, and they looked out the window, you remember the story, and watched her get attacked. And they all came to the window and watched it and went back to their TVs. She screamed again. They came to the windows again, watched her down there. He stabbed her again. They went back to their TVs. She screamed again. They came to the windows a third time and watched her get stabbed and went back to their televisions. And then they wrote an article about how cold New York was. It has nothing to do with how cold New York is. It has everything to do with the assumptions people make and what they call pluralistic ignorance. They came to the window, they looked across the hall, they saw other people's faces and assumed that they had called and went back to their TV. I'm going to ask you to assume that nobody has called and that you are personally responsible for the people you were sent to help. Personally responsible. And if it starts with $10, then help them with $10. Go out and find somebody you can help and really get it done. And assume that no one else will do a doggone thing unless you do it. Personally responsible. And that the money that flows to you, I promise you, I guarantee you, that if you set that as an attitude, the universe will flow the funds to you.